Good afternoon, Kavibal, and welcome to our preschool webinar series. For today's discussion, our topic would be on learning and interaction at home for preschoolers, the mediating role of parents and preschool teachers towards effective home based education. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions on the comment box allotted during the session, and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kavibal. And now, to proceed with our session this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker. He is currently the chair of the Department of Psychology and the dean of the School of Arts, Sciences, and Education at St. Dominic College of Asia. He is also a regional quality assessment team member for psychology in the Commission of Higher Education, Calabarzon 4A. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speaker, Dr. Philip Cordova Kizan, RPM.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. And again, I thank Vibal Group for inviting me again to share inspirational topics that can at least facilitate learning amidst this time of pandemic crisis. And before that, I'm pretty much sure that most of the viewers right now, either they are preschool teachers, parents who have preschool kids, or just ordinary individual wants to get inspiration in the future that they might be or they might want to be a preschool teacher or becoming a parent someday. So the topic that is assigned to me right now is the learning and interaction of home. I mean, an interaction at home for preschoolers, the mediating role of parents and preschool teachers towards effective home-based education. As we all know, we are facing at this pandemic crisis, and that restricted us from having this face-to-face or the traditional type of learning at school. And with that, we need to at least dwell with the situation and try to find ways on how to deliver education or how to make education a continuous delivery for our students or for our kids. Okay, so again, I'm Dr. Philip Cordova Quizon, your speaker today. I'm the chair of the Department of Psychology and the dean of the School of Arts, Science, and Education. I hope within 30 to 40 minutes, you can spare your time with me, give me your ears, and I hope that this would be a very good and meaningful discussion that we will have today. Okay, so we will answer 8 questions. I'll try to assume that I am a preschool teacher lecturing students. Okay, so we'll try to answer 8 questions. The first question would be, what preparation can be done at home for preschoolers? Number 2 question is, what is the importance of rewards and reinforcement on positive behavior for preschoolers? Number 3 question is, how preschoolers can be actively engaged at home? As we all know, we are now restricted to have face-to-face or the traditional type of learning. And that's the reason why the topic that we are discussing today is how can we facilitate learning at home for preschoolers? Number 4, what is the concept of socialization, which is very important for preschoolers? As we all know, socialization is important for these kids in the developmental stages that they are encountering. However, there might be some restrictions in the socialization and what socialization can be done at home. And that's the thing that we will be discussing later. How can the preschool teacher collaborates with the parent and vice versa? This is a very important strategy, not just from the part of the preschool teacher, but also from the part of the parent who should collaborate with the preschool teacher. Okay. Number 6 question, why honing is significant in child's development? Number 7, how to outsmart and outshine our preschool kids. And the last question is, why preschool education is a very important start to learn or for learners. Okay, So I hope that again you can spare your time with me for 30 to 40 minutes within this with this discussion, and later I will entertain questions in as much as I could. Okay, let's start. Okay, first question: what preparation can be done at home for preschoolers? Okay, so since we are in this pandemic crisis and all students are expected to learn in the comfort of their home, the teacher or the preschool teacher, specifically for the specific for this the discussion today, and the parents have this kind of vital important role in the academic life of our preschool students or kids. Okay, so for preschool teacher, perhaps she needs to start with a plan of activities. As much as possible, that should be manageable activities. Always remember that at this pandemic crisis, the one who facilitates the learning are the parents, especially in the absence of online. But however, for preschool, it might be crucial if we will just allow our kids sitting alone in front of the computer without the presence or guidance of a parent. So therefore, there is a collaboration between the parent and the preschool teacher on how to academically achieve their objectives for these preschool kids. Number two, the preschool teacher should develop some learning modules or learning materials that can be done at home and can be managed by parents as facilitators. Okay, what are those learning modules or materials? Perhaps we are expecting that this preschool kids, their learning is not that extensive. It's more on appreciation, simple recognition. Like, for example, we can give them reading materials in the sense that the reading materials can be also read properly by the parents. I mean, those simple reading materials or simple mathematics for recognition. We are not expecting that these preschool kids are expected to learn multiplication, division. Of course, we are not expecting because they are still in their learning curve. However, we can introduce to them something that is simple but something meaningful in their academic journey towards higher or even extensive learning. Another perhaps preparation for the preschool teacher are the sample exercises. When we say sample exercises, we are expecting that these exercises are not complex but simple. Like for example, recognizing an animal, like or knowing what the color of an apple is, for example. So with those reinforcement materials that I may say, then that can be a good start for the kid to do some conceptual thing in order for that kid to recognize that what he or she is doing has something to do with a thing that should be or that there is a need for it to be recognized. Like for example, an apple. Maybe that we can say that the apple is red, and how can we introduce apple as a fruit to that kid? Maybe perhaps there is a coloring book. We need to advise our kid to use red, for example, to color the apple, and with that, by doing some colors, that starts something an imagination and can create a construct that this something image is a representation of an apple. Another preparation that the preschool teacher should do is, of course, the chart of monitoring. This should be given by the parents. As we all know, the one who monitors the academic progress normally or before the pandemic crisis are preschool teachers. However, at this time, we need to take note that parents has a significant role in monitoring the academic progress of their kids. And that's the reason why this chart of monitoring can at least give a feedback or somehow a discussion between the teacher and the parent on what can be done, or what should be done in order for my kid or for our preschool kids to learn. From parents, what we can prepare are, of course, the learning environment. When we say learning environment, we need to check it as 360 degrees. We're not just setting a table and chair for our kid, but we should also check what kind of environment that the kid should have at home in order for the kid to learn and to increase his interest or her interest in learning. Like, for example, if you have a very nice table and a very nice chair for your kid in order for that kid to at least be actively participate in your engagement or facilitating process. However, you need to check the surrounding also. Okay, when we say environment, it's 360 degree. It encompasses everything. It's not just the physical things that you see, it's also the engagement of those family members inside the home. And that's what we call learning environment. The learning environment being defined in distance education is the home that where that kid is doing his or her academic engagement. Okay. Number two, reinforcement materials. Earlier I'm thinking, what do I call with this? Coloring materials, paper. So I'm trying to check if we give this to student, we reinforce students to learn. So I called it by myself reinforcement materials. So these reinforcement materials are very important in order for an increased engagement of our kids. Because, for example, let's say that there are modules, like for example, coloring books. In the absence of a color, do you think that a coloring book can work, or do you think that the child will have the interest to do some coloring in the absence of a coloring material? I guess that would not be possible. Another thing is other things that will increase learning interest. What I'm trying to say is that, as we all know, there is a different approach when, or a different scenario when a kid stays at home and when a kid stays at school. At this pandemic crisis, those kids should stay at home and learn at home. However, the big question here is that how can you convert that particular home similar to what it is expected inside a classroom? So perhaps you may devise or develop something that the student may think, oh, I'm still inside the class because I'm seeing things that I can learn. Like, for example, I mean, the reinforcement materials that I have said earlier. So those are the things that we need to consider as parents in order for us to achieve something a unique, something a developing, something a should we say an interesting thing for our preschool kids. Okay. Then number two question is, what is the importance of rewards and reinforcement for positive behavior, talking about preschoolers or for preschoolers? Okay. For reinforcement helps children feel good about their choices. As we all know, parents and teachers wants to reinforce positive behaviors to our kids. Am I correct? We don't like to reinforce a behavior that will ruin the lives of our kids. Teachers are doing all things, or preschool teachers are doing all things in order to reinforce behaviors that will help in the development of the kid or the preschool kid. So when we reinforce positive behavior, then this can be example behaviors that kids will accept, that kids will try to think, and kids will eventually do. Reinforcement shifts negative behavior to positive one. When we say shifting negative behavior to positive one, we understand that our kids play something an egoistic attitude. What they want is something what they get sometimes. However, if we reinforce positive attitude, then we can facilitate a so-called a healthy environment for the kid. We want our kid to realize as early as his or her stage that positive attitudes or behaviors can facilitate a constructive and active learning, especially in his or her academic engagement. So that's really a challenge for parents and teachers. How can we reinforce positive behaviors to our kids? Another thing that reinforcement can help is positive behavior, or I mean reinforcement, of course, develop positive habits. Like, for example, if your kids are doing something that is not helping him or her, definitely, if we will not reinforce positive behavior, that may be, or that may create a comfort zone to the kid, and which is very crucial, and I guess for me, a monumental task if that is now his or her comfort zone. However, when we will reinforce positive behavior at his or her age, definitely they will see us a model. They will see us something, an example, in order for this example to get, I mean, this example be manifested with their daily activities at home, especially when they are dealing with their academic engagement. What about rewards? Actually, someone asked me, "Sir, can I give rewards to my kids?" Basically, when I will answer that question, I will say yes. But to what extent? It's not that easy to describe why a reward is important. It is checking what type of rewards that we are giving, and to how long we will give the rewards, or is it something that we something what I mean the reward that we are giving is a physical reward, or something a verbal reward that will increase internal, or something within, like motivation, self-efficacy, and the like. So rewards makes a learning atmosphere positive one. So it creates a positive learning atmosphere. Like for example, I'll give you an example of non-physical rewards. Like if you see that your kid is excelling, then it doesn't mean that the kid wants to have a physical thing. Sometimes they are asking for appreciation. So what we can do is we can do some positive feedback. Positive feedback triggers a reward signal in the brain. It reinforces the action that caused it and make it more likely to be repeated in the future. So kung sasabihin niyo sa inyo anak na, "Anak, ang galing-galing mo." Yung pagsabi mo ng, "Ang galing-galing mo," tatatak niyan sa utak ng anak ko, I mean sa utak ng bata, na sasabihin niya, "Ay, gagawin ko pa kasi syempre na-appreciate ni mama at ni papa yung mga ginagawa ko." Or something na, "Anak, very good," or ganito. Those are positive feedback that can help positively develop the personal engagement of the kid to his or academic activities. For rewards, it also increases motivation in learning. There is an increase in motivation and learning. Yung ibang preschool teacher, ang ginagawa nila is, naalala ko, yung parang stamp ng star, ganon. Pwede naman ata yan gawin sa bahay, di ba? Bumili kayo ng stamp, pag may tama yung anak mo, lagyan, no, "Anak, very good, may star ka." Minsan, hindi nyo na lang mamalayan, yung star na yan, tatatak yan sa utak ng bata na ito ang magiging dahilan para ako ay maging successful sa buhay. We may not read what is inside the mind of the kid, but we don't know the imagination of that kid to the star that we put in his or her hand. Another thing about rewards is that rewards recognizes accomplishment, which has a positive effect to kids, as I have discussed earlier. So the more you give rewards, sabi nga nila, the more it increases accomplishment. But take note, hindi pwede habang buhay na reward lang ang magiging basis for their success. That's the reason why I encourage parents to do balance in giving rewards. You may give something that will benefit them in their journey towards academic activities, or in their academic life. But most of the time, I encourage parents to do a positive feedback. Okay? So ang ibig sabihin nito, hindi kailangan bumili ng laruan para mag-perfect yung anak ninyo. Minsan, pwede nyo naman sabihin sa anak niyo in a very nice way na mararamdaman ng anak ninyo na, "Nak, ang galing-galing mo. Kaya mo yan. You will be successful in the future. Nakikita ko na may mararating ka kasi very good ka." Those are inspirational words na papasok sa mind ng bata at ipaprocess niya to at sasabihin niya, "Ay, oo, magiging successful ako sa buhay." If that would happen, then therefore, at a long run, your kids will be successful in life. And also, rewards can make your kids feel that they are being loved, cared, and hindi sila pinapabayaan during their developmental stage. So ang ibig sabihin nito, the more we do some encouragement to our kids, the more the reward is given, but not what I'm not saying na reward something na physical, but more on a positive feedback, the more we encourage our students to succeed in life. The more they feel na mahal ako ng tatay ko, mahal ako ng nanay ko, at inaalagaan ako ng nanay ko kasi mismo sa kanila naririnig ko kung gaano nila na-appreciate ang simple task na nagagawa ko ng tama. Okay? Next question is, how preschoolers can be actively engaged at home? So, alam naman natin na playing is very important thing in the lives of our kids, especially for preschoolers. But I abbreviate play in this abbreviation. P stands for participate in his or academic, in his or activities at home. L, list all the things that your kids needs. A, actively respond to the curiosity of your kid. Y, yield meaningful and memorable experience. So that's participate, list, actively respond, and yield meaningful and memorable experiences. So first, participate. When we say participate, these parents are facilitators at home in the learning of their kids, while the preschool teachers guides the parents in order for them to become successful in the facilitation process of our kids. So, dapat tayo parents, we should participate sa mga ginagawa ng ating mga anak. Kasi the more we participate, the more we give guidance to our student to what direction that they should be. Kasi minsan, if misguided ang bata, hindi natin alam na yung ginagawa ng bata na alam nating mali, yun yung ginagawa nila kasi hindi natin sila nag-guide. And that's the reason why our participation is very important, especially at this time of crisis where school is now based at home. Second is list all the things that your kids needs. I'm not saying na bilhin nyo lahat ng gusto ng bata. What I'm trying to say as parents, you need to list down what are those reinforcement materials that can facilitate active learning to the kid. Dapat, alam nyo kung anong pangangailangan ng bata in the same way kung ano yung pangangailangan na ibibigay nyo during yung wala pa tayo sa pandemya. So, dapat ilista niyo yung mga pangangailangan ng bata. Minsan, gustong-gusto ng bata na gawin ang isang bagay, pero wala lang siyang makikitang bagay na pwedeng mag-push sa kanya na gawin yon. Like for example, in the absence of a Crayola, do you think that this coloring book would work kung wala talagang pang-color? Definitely, baka hindi makulay ng bata. Pero the more we give this reinforcement materials to our kids, the higher the chances that we now introduce to them what is something to do that is better for them at this pandemic crisis. A is actively respond to the curiosity of the kid. Remember, ang mga bata ay nag-aaral sa bahay at very curious ang mga bata. Marami yan silang tanong. Paano to gawin? Of course, I guess 80% kayang sagutin ng nanay pag preschool ang anak. Kasi syempre, pag kinder, those are simple tasks lang naman na gagawin, di ba? Pero, pag hindi nyo kayang sagutin ang tanong ng bata or kayang gawin ang pinapagawa ng isang bata in terms of asking for help, then that's the time that you need to collaborate with the preschool teacher. And communication is really important in that scenario. And the last is, this is very important. In order to increase engagement, you should yield meaningful and memorable experience. How? Your bond with your kids at home is very important and very significant to the development of to the affect, to the physical, even cognitive, in any aspect. The whole aspect of the kid is being facilitated with how you produce meaningful and memorable experiences. Compare a parent who works a lot and denies the time for the kids and that parent na, sige na, sabihin natin may trabaho, pero after ng kanyang trabaho, kinukumusta niya ang kanyang anak. Hindi natin masisisi agad ang magulang na kailangan magtrabaho para sa kanilang mga anak. But again, your work is not only your responsibility for your kids. Your time for them is one of your responsibilities. Actually, one of those priceless responsibilities that you need to give to your children. Okay? So, by sitting with them and asking them, o kumusta ka na? Kumusta na assignment mo? Sasabihin ng anak mo, ma, pa, ganito, okay naman, maayos naman ang ginagawa ko. Meron akong isang bagay na hindi pa natapos, pwede mo ba akong tulungan? And if you can give 30 minutes of that, that would be a meaningful experience and memorable experience to the kid. Magkakaroon yan siya ng imagination in the future at maalala niya na ay yung nanay at tatay ko ay hindi ako pinababayaan at mahal na mahal ako. So therefore, pandemic is not an issue for education actually. It's more on our engagement to our kids that makes this time of crisis a meaningful experience. Okay? Number 4 question, what is the concept of socialization in preschool? Okay, so as we all know, socialization is really important for preschool in order for them to actively participate or interact with another. But sometimes at this pandemic crisis, socialization is not that way anymore. We cannot ask our students or kids to socially interact physically with his or her classmates. Social development is part of growing, actually, especially to kids. It's very important. Through socialization, they get examples of behavior, and once it is pleasing to them, they imitate those behaviors. Kaya nga, minsan, careful tayo sa pag-i-interact sa ating mga bata. Malay natin, tinitingnan tayo ng ating mga anak, and ginagawa tayong examples as good behaviors that they assume good, but in reality, that's not good. Kaya careful tayo when it comes to doing some socialization with our kids. Okay? At home, socialization means their interaction with significant others like parents and siblings. Siyempre, hindi naman nila interact physically. Sabihin na lang natin makumusta nila sa cellphone. But do you think is it advisable na yung mga kindergarten mag-online din? Doon ituturo? Para sa akin, no? It's mas importante sa bata ang physical interaction. Kaya nga dapat parents ang mag-interact sa preschool at this time of pandemic where education is now based at home. Socialization also, let them feel an interactive environment. They will also develop physical, emotional, and cognitive aspects when they do socialization. For kids, this is very important. Socialization within the family is a form of emotional survival. Just imagine a kid sitting down watching TV without the interaction or without interaction to parents or to his or her sibling. We might ask, is there an emotional problem of this kid why she is not socializing? What if I will return that question to you? Did you socialize or do some interaction with the kids and ask them primary question, kumusta ka na? So take note, as I have said earlier, socialization for kids is a form of emotional survival. If they feel and they see that when they socialize with their parents and their parents socialize with them, vice versa, then this kind of relationship would at least enhance, or should we say, would go to a positive direction of what this kid would feel to parents or to those people around or at home. So again, socialization for kids is a form of emotional survival. The more they socialize, the more they share their feelings with others. And once when their feelings are shared to parents, for example, then we parents know the status quo or the status of our kids, and we can now think or develop something that makes this kid not to feel alone or diminish the feeling of aloneness. Number 6 is, it is important that parents at this pandemic time plays an interactive role to their kids so that learning interest can be achieved. Again, ang education ngayon ay nasa bahay. advice, especially for those preschool na hindi natin pwedeng ilabas. The parents are the good source of, should we say, learning that can be done inside the home. Okay. Number 5 question is, how can the preschool teacher collaborates with the parent and vice versa? I hope that you can see in the presentation because actually, I did it earlier. Gumawa ako ng matrix kung paano ba talaga ang cycle. And I come up with this. So it starts with the preparation. Then there is a transfer. Then there is facility or facilitation process. Then feedback. Then it goes back again to preparation. So that's the parent-teacher collaborative cycle for preschool distance education. Let me explain the cycle, okay? Prepare. This is the, should I say, the considerable action that should be done by a teacher, by the preschool teacher. She is responsible for the preparation of the learning materials modules for the preschool kids, okay? Once there is now this learning material, that learning material can be transferred to parent. If you will see, there is a parent-teacher interaction. So, hindi naman pwedeng anak natin papuntahin sa school. O anak, punta ka na, kunin mo yung learning materials, tapos uwi ka. Hindi naman pwedeng ganun, di ba? Kasi, syempre, hindi natin alam. Baka ma-compromise ang safety and health ng ating anak. So, the parent should get this learning modules or learning materials by all means or any means, like for example, online or talagang pupunta sa school, and the teacher should at least brief the parent. O ganito ma'am ang gagawin natin. Ma'am ha, ganito. Kaya nga dapat, patience is really virtue ngayon sa ganitong scenario. So mag-uusap si teacher at parent kung paano ang pag-transfer. Okay? Bakit may 2 arrow? Bakit merong teacher to parent, meron din babalik kay parent to teacher? We don't know na because of the love of our, because of the love to our kids, we also prepare something for our kids. And we want this preparation to be validated as parents. So pwede dyan sa transfer, pag-uusapan ni parent ang teacher kung etong parent na meron siyang materials din, pwede ba sa anak niya? I-validate ni teacher, kaya babalik kay teacher. At yung piniprepare prepare ni teacher, i-guide si parents or i-coach kung paano paano i-execute itong mga materials. So nandun na yung collaboration, okay? From transfer, na nawawala na si teacher, pupunta na sa facilitation process, na iiwan si parent. Remember, where is education right now? Nasa bahay. Kaya nga, dapat si parent is a very good facilitator. Okay? So kung na-coach na siya ng maayos, pwede na siya maging facilitator. At dapat, pagbigyan nyo at paglaanan nyo ng oras ang anak nyo to learn these learning materials and those materials that you have purchased for the sake of your child. Now, from this facilitation process, it can create a lot. Bonding, care, love, appreciation, reward, lahat nandoon na. Pag merong progress, dito na papasok si feedback. So si feedback, kung titingnan nyo, parent and teacher. Hindi lang parent. Why? Because parent can give feedback to the teacher about the progress of his or her child, while the teacher can also give feedback to what can be done after the transfer. Minsan kasi, naiiwan pa yung iba doon sa facilitation. Nag-feedback si parent kay teacher, ma'am, meron akong naiwan na ganito, paano ata ito gagawin? Ganon-ganon. So nag-feedback siya. Kasi parang medyo nahihirapan ako konti doon. Si teacher, babalik doon, mag-feedback kay parent. Sasabihin kay parent, ma'am, ganito po yung gagawin ninyo. So si parent, pwede niyang balikan ulit yun. And sometimes, this feedback is actually most of the time, this feedback is really important in the mechanism or progress of the kid. Kasi we don't know, there are some things that we can add or that there are some things that we can reduce in order to balance or to do some win-win situation when it comes to the learning of the kids. Hindi kasi natin pwedeng forsahin ang isang estudyante na lahat alamin niya. Minsan, we need to do some strategies or refine some strategies in order for this kid to appreciate. Actually, learning starts with appreciation eh. Kailangan laruin mo muna ang bata. O anak, ganito, ganun, ganun. Hanggang ma-appreciate ng bata, hanggang maging interest na siya, hanggang maging learning na yun ng bata. So, that cycle, I guess, that's the very simple cycle that I can propose to a collaboration between the parent and the teacher. So the teacher prepares, then his or her preparation will be transferred to the parent. The parent can also prepare something and ask for validation to the teacher. When everything is clear in the transfer, then we can now go to the facilitation process wherein the parents stand as the facilitator of learning since learning is inside at home. Then once there is already facilitation, we can go now to the feedback where feedback can be done in dual ways, a parent-teacher feedback or teacher-parent feedback. When we say parent-teacher feedback, parent is now giving feedback to the teacher when it comes to the progress of the kids, while teacher is also giving feedback to some developments that can be done or can be added in order to achieve more meaningful learning experiences. Okay. Number 6 question. Why honing is significant in child's development? Okay. So honing in learning means to sharpen or refine over a period of time. The early experiences in terms of learning is vital and important. That's the reason why talagang it's a primordial task talaga natin na mga magulang na maging frontliner tayo sa ating mga anak. Especially pag nasa comfort sila ng pamamahay. It's very important that we are the one who is honing the minds of our kids, not just academically, but also values integration para at the end of the day, guided ang kanilang academic journey when they go from one step to the other or from one ladder to the or one step to the other. We want our child to achieve something in the future. By honing the mind of the kid, it can continuously create a constructive thought. Always remember that. Pag we are guiding our kids and making sure that his or her education is something meaningful experience to him by giving the essential things that are needed in making this academic life more meaningful and fruitful, then magiging constructive thought sa bata yan. Sasabihin ng bata, ay, mama, excited na ako mag-grade 1. Gusto ko na mag-learn ng yung mas mataas na yun. Gusto ko na ng ganito. Baka hindi natin, magiging advanced pa yung anak niya. Which is for us, parang we should be thankful kung ganun na ang level ng appreciation ng ating mga anak. A child's early years are the foundation for his or her future development. By honing, we can help them learn more complex ideas in the future. Number 7, how to outsmart and outshine our preschool kids. I certainly understand that parents are doing, kung pwede, everything, di ba? We are doing everything in order to make our kids outsmart and outshine. So, ang ibig sabihin nito, maging matalino at maging bibo. Yan yung pangarap ng mga magulang at yan yung kasiyahan natin. Hindi yan mababayaran kahit kanino. Pag nakita niyo yung anak niyo na first honor, may honor, or something na may award, syempre, parang ego natin na parang, wow, pwede natin ipagmayabang na ang ating anak ay ganito, parang ganun. Syempre, kung sa Filipino culture, minsan, kinder pa lang, ginagawa na natin ng mga tarpaulin, something like that. I'm very happy for those parents na ganun ang kanilang motivation na pinapakita sa kanilang mga anak. And it's something helpful. Kaya nga, in order for your kids to be outsmart and outshine, I guess these 9 tips can help. Okay? Number 1 is facilitate self-efficacy to the kids. The belief that anak, kaya mo yan. Yung anak, kaya mo yan, nagpapataas yan ng confidence sa anak na kaya kong gawin at kaya kong matuto. Kung in the other way, pag negative ang binibigay nyo sa anak nyo, definitely, mawawala ng self-efficacy or self-worth ang anak ninyo. Pero pag sasabihin nyo, anak, kahit nagkamali ka, kaya mo yan at alam kong magaling ka. Wow, that's a very good positive feedback to your kid. And at the same time, a reinforcement to the kid. So, self-efficacy is really important because sometimes we forgot this self-efficacy to our kids. We don't know how this self-efficacy plays an important role in the development of our kids. This self-efficacy can lead to independence and individuality of the kids. That would mean na kahit wala na ang parent, mag-isip ng bata, ay kaya ko to, pag-aaralan ko to. Kung yun ang in-establish nyo sa inyong anak, definitely, you can really make a meaningful academic experiences to your kid. Next is, always tell them that they are good and they can be better in the future. Huwag natin sabihin sa kanila na ang mali ay wala na, ay katapusan na ng mundo. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin sa mga anak na, ay, nagkamali ka, hindi ka pwedeng magkamali sa sunod. Hindi pwede kasi tatatak sa utak nila, am I a perfect person or expected to be perfect? Parang ganun. Eh syempre, baka magkaroon ng dilema ang anak kung paano siya mag-a-achieve sa kanyang buhay. Dapat, kahit nagkamali ang anak niyo, sabihin na natin during sa facilitating process, hindi na intindihan. Kasi minsan, we explain to kid that is something that is not something understandable to the kid. Na I hope that you get that. Nagbibigay tayo ng explanation, pero ang anak niyo nakatingin lang. Hindi niyo alam, hindi niyo pala na-refine ng explanation. And pinagalitan niyo. Mawawala yung direction or interest ng anak niyo pagdating sa pag-aaral. Pero, pag for example, kung nagkamali ang inyong anak, sasabihin niyo, anak, ganito gagawin natin. Sige, ganito ang sagot, tuturuan kita at alam kong kaya mo yan. At huwag kang matakot magkamali kasi minsan sa pagkakamali mo, diyan ka marunong babangon or bumangon. Could you imagine that? What inspiration can you give to the kid? Sasabihin ng anak mo, wala na siyang takot. Yung pagkakamali niya is not something that is not good for him, but something, a learning experience to him. Could you imagine if you can develop that to the minds of your kids? Next is, acknowledge their ideas and refine them in order for them to understand at their level. Excuse me. So what I'm trying to say is, because of the curiosity of the kids, sometimes they keep on asking questions na parang minsan hindi mo alam kung anong isasagot mo. Meron kang alam pero paano mo sasagutin? Parang ganun. So, well, we cannot blame our kids because nasa learning curve pa sila eh. Kailangan pa nila matuto ng marami, especially in the recognition part. So might as well try to do some reflection first in the answers that you will be giving to your kids at home. Like for example, Mommy, ganito, bakit for example, may isa kong na-encounter na kid when I do some tutorial during my college years kasi nagbibigay din ako ng tutorial while studying. May tinuturuan akong bata, sabi pa ng bata sa akin, Mommy, ganito, bakit ganito yung meron kasing pig po tapos ginagawa siyang food, mga ganong bagay. So, challenging yan, di ba? Would you imagine how you will respond it na in a way na very positive sa pagtanggap ng bata na bakit ang isang pig na didrawing niya, pagdating ng paglaki niya, or even at his age, bakit inintroduce as food? Sabihin sa iyo, Mami, di ba, bad yung ganito, ganon. So, dapat reflective ang pagsagot ninyo na in a way that the answer should be in the understandable level of the kid. Minsan kasi, totoo, minsan mga bata, mga pilosopo talaga. And sometimes we have difficulty answering their philosophical minds at their very young age or even yung curiosity nila. So be careful. Maybe perhaps we can do some reflection first on the answers that we'll be giving before we will respond to the query or to the curiosity of the kid. Okay? Next, give positive feedback or reward accomplishments. Okay? Sa mga may kaya, I guess, pwede naman, pero please put some limitations in giving rewards. I'm not saying na nire-restrict ko kayo na magpagbigay kasi syempre, you're all your best as parents para mabigyan ng pangangailangan ng inyong anak or even wants, hindi na needs, di ba? Pero take note, the more you exercise that physical rewards, na every time na may accomplishment, bibigyan nyo ng something na ganito, baka makokondisyon yung anak nyo na matututo lang ako kung merong ibibigay sa akin ang aking nanay or tatay. That's very monumental task pag yan ang nasa utak or may ng mga anak ninyo. Medyo mahirap yun, especially sa kids. Sasabihin nyo, anak, pag perfect ka sa exam mo every week, magja-Jollibee tayo. What if nawalan ka ng trabaho? At what if naging comfort zone niya ng anak mo na pag perfect siya sa exam niya or mataas ang grade niya, puro Jollibee ang ibibigay mo at wala ka nang maibibigay? There might be a tendency that this kid might misinterpret you because na-condition mo siya na ganun ang ibibigay mo. Kaya nga, dapat balanse. Sometimes, physical rewards are not feasible at some situation, but I really acknowledge positive feedback in order to increase encouragement, motivation to students. Kasi itong positive feedback na ibibigay natin sa anak natin, lifelong to. Mailalagay nila sa kanilang utak na, ay, ang aking nanay at tatay ay nag-appreciate ng aking achievements. At natatandaan ko nung sinabi sa akin ng nanay ko na, anak, kayang-kaya mo yan. Could you imagine that? After years of being said that, na-recall pa rin ng bata, di ba? I mean, ng anak ninyo. That is a meaningful experience na dadali niya all throughout his or her life. Guide their failures towards an optimistic ones. Minsan kasi, let's be honest, makukulit talaga ang mga bata at minsan nagkakasala sila. Para sa parents, sa part ng parents, let's try to put more understanding to our kids. Wag nating i-restrict yung ating mga anak na wag maglaro sa bahay kasi playing is part of their activities at that stage. Minsan kasi, anak, ay ganito, nagkakalat ka. Pwedeng pagsabihin mo yung anak mo na ganito yung gagawin. Turuan mo siya ng simpleng proseso. Alam ko na maiintindihan ng bata kung makikita or mararamdaman ng anak ninyo yung willingness na kaya mong i-guide sila all throughout their life. Okay? Next is, appreciate their happiness and share your happiness with them. Mas maganda ito. Pag masaya sila, then try also to appreciate their happiness. Like for example, Mami, perfect ako sa exam. Ikaw naman, syempre, gusto mo i-share yung happiness. Perhaps sasabihin mo, very good, anak, or kukuha ka ng star, ganun. Anak, meron kang 3 star, ganun. Could you imagine that bonding between the parent and the kid? Meaningful experience yan para sa bata. Yung encounter na yan. Matatatak yan sa utak niya na, ay, mahal na mahal ako ng aking mami at daddy, ng aking mama at papa, at gagawin ko na maging successful ako in life. Mag-aaral ako ng mabuti. May ilalagay yan sa utak nila kasi mismo tayo, pinapakita natin sa kanila what a positive reinforcement and rewards that is sought for their, that is for them, that is for their good. Okay? Next is, you should be their number one fan in their life. Actually, dapat kayo ang number one na fan sa buhay ng mga anak ninyo. Especially pag preschool or nasa kindergarten pa. Kasi minsan, nagkakaroon ng shame or doubt actually kung kay Eric Erickson yan, di ba? Minsan kasi parang nahihiya yung bata pero kung ini-encourage mo yung bata na anak mag-aral ka mabuti ganito, meron tayong activities na gagawin at alam ko matutunan mo yan ganito, definitely you are making sure that you are the number one fan in his or her life. Magkakaroon niya ng sense of encouragement sa part ng bata. Sasabihin ng bata, ay, nandiyan naman si mommy at si daddy, fan yan nila ako, para maging happy sila, gagawin ko ang lahat para maging successful ako, ganun. Those thing or scenarios will make a meaningful experiences to our kids. Number 8, if they are interested in one thing that can make them better, then support it. If there are constraints, negotiate with them. Ganito yan. Minsan, may mga bagay na kailangan nila. Kung kaya naman natin bilhin, why not? But again, check the limitations. It doesn't mean that you should not have limitations. Hindi pwede ganun. Dapat, kahit may means ka, check also the limitations of what you're giving. However, there are families or parents who cannot give something, something na gusto ng bata. Ang gagawin nyo is, try to do some positive negotiation. I-negotiate nyo sa anak ninyo. Sasabihin nyo, anak, ganito na lang ang gagawin natin. Since hindi kita mabibilhan ng laruan ganun, ganito na lang ang gagawin natin, anak. Bibilan na lang kita ng ganito. Pag nagkapera si Papa, Mama, bibilhan natin yan, ha? Pero dapat mag-aral ka ng mabuti, ha? Kasi magiging masaya si Mama at si Papa at gagawin namin ang lahat. Could you imagine na from that negotiation at pag naintindihan ng anak nyo, sasabihin ng anak nyo, o sige po Papa, Mama, next time, ganun. Alam ko po na love nyo ko or gagawin nyo naman ang lahat para sa akin kasi mahal na mahal nyo ko. Could you imagine that those words in return with that conversation, iba ang feeling para sa side ng magulang. minsan, you double your effort because of the understanding of your kids. Hindi mo na mamalaya na dahil na doon pa lang sa part na yon, hindi lang pala tayo ang nagbibigay ng inspiration sa mga anak. Sila din mismo ay nagbibigay ng inspiration sa atin. And through positive negotiation, that can settle a win-win solution both sa parent and sa kids side. Lastly, always remember that parents and teachers are facilitators in making kids outsmart and outshine. Okay? So why preschool education is very important start for learners? Bakit mahalaga siya as a baseline or as a starting point? Formal learning starts in preschool education. We all know that. I myself experienced actually before ako nag-kinder 1, meron pa yung parang nasa daycare ako tapos nag-kinder 1, nag-kinder 2. Those are things that we should start in terms of education for our kids. Kasi para sa akin, if we miss that kind of setup, merong challenges along the way. Pag lalaktaw na siya sa grade 1, baka yung mga expected na milestone doon sa part na yon during their preschool, baka hindi ma-achieve doon na sa grade 1 kasi at the end of the day, what learnings that you have get in your kindergarten years is a learning that is continuous all throughout your academic engagement. Number 2, preschool time is the starting point to acknowledge the individuality of the kid as a separate individual. It's true. So ito yung time na parang ina-acknowledge ng bata na siya ay individual person at may kakayanan siya o meron siyang potential na gagawin ang isang bagay sa pamamagitan ng kanyang pansariling interes. So ang ibig sabihin no, it is his or her premature interest that makes him an individual or separate person. Minsan napapansin natin, kahit iwanan natin yung anak natin, diyan natin makikita na independent and individual ang anak natin. Our kids are a separate person. Makikita natin kumukuha ng Crayola, kahit anong color, magko-color-color yan siya. So ang ibig sabihin yan, dinidiscover niya yung potentials niya in a particular skill or other aspect. Preschool education gives opportunities to kids in exploring and developing more their potentials. So this is the time for the kids to explore that she is a separate person and has something to do when it comes to exploration, when it comes to discovery, or even developing more some expected or milestone during that stage. Preschool education can start a meaningful academic experience of the child. Pag merong preschool education, therefore, that's a very good start for meaningful experiences when it comes to academics or when it comes to learning. Diyan, makakakilala na siya ng kaibigan niya or magkakaroon siya ng sense of independency when it comes to doing tasks and the like. And since development is crucial during early childhood years, then preschool education can facilitate learning and interest. So this would mean that preschool education is really important and it's vital in the development of all aspects of the kid, not just cognitive, but it's emotional, physical, social aspect also. So I'll give you this home-based education for preschool. How did I abbreviated preschool? Para at least mas simpler ang ating discussion. This would summarize the discussion from question 1 to question 8. Okay? So home-based education for preschool means letter P, prepare activities. Letter R, reinforce and reward positive behaviors through socialization with collaboration of parents and teachers to hone the minds of kids and make them outsmart and outshine learners. I'll repeat. Letter P, prepare activities. R, reinforce and reward positive behaviors. Letter E, engagement in alternative learning. Letter S, socialization. Letter C, collaboration of parents and teachers. Letter H, hone the minds of kids. And letter O, outsmart. Another O, outshine. And letter L, of course, our kids, the preschool kids, the learners. So this is how I summarize preschool when it comes to home-based education. Okay? So before I end my discussion, I just want to leave these words of wisdom. Mahilig talaga kasi ako sa words of wisdom. Eh. So iiwan ko to sa inyo and you may reflect. Okay? Who we are now is based on how we dwell in the past. We develop based on our optimistic historical engagement. The life of our children is based on what and how they have encountered a meaningful experience. Hence, if we want our kids to live a fulfilled and meaningful life, start it with education. With that, I thank you for giving your time. I guess I exceeded 10 minutes from the expected time. So thank you for listening. And I hope that you have get something out of my discussion. And if you have some questions, I guess we can open now the table for the question and answer portion. So again, thank you and hope that you have a wonderful day. Okay?
Hello, good afternoon, Doc Philip.
Yes?
Yes po, can you hear me na po? Ayan. So, sir, we have here some questions. Thank you so much for this very insightful afternoon that you had with us. So, the
Yes.
first question, sir, that we have here, this is from Miss Luvies Furigay. How about the parents who are illiterate? How do we employ this modular learning?
Okay, so the question here is how about the parents who are illiterate? How do we employ this modular learning? Okay, I don't believe that parents are illiterate. Maybe they define it based on what capacity they have and they associate it with literacy or low literacy. Ang feeling lang nila is wala silang kakayanan. Pero sa totoo lang, may kakayanan kayo. Minsan, hindi excuse ang inyong literacy to not consider the welfare or the academic welfare of your kids. Maybe this is a very good opportunity, parents, for you to learn at the same time with your kids. So, um, marami nagtatanong sa akin, no read, no write ako, pero nakakapagsalita ka. You can express words. Therefore, there is a tendency for you to recognize words in written. Or you have struggled a lot in your life and here you are now, you're a parent. So therefore, I don't believe na may parent na illiterate. Sabihin na natin, if in case meron talaga at whatever circumstances it may have, we may ask assistance to someone who can help us. Hindi ibig sabihin na pag illiterate tayo, for example, illiterate ako, wala akong alam para humingi ng tulong sa iba para tulungan ako. Dapat gagawa tayo ng paraan kung hindi tayo ang nakakatulong sa ating anak when it comes to our academic engagement, why not reach our hands? Reach our hands to tap other people na pwedeng makatulong sa atin. So dapat, ang being illiterate has nothing to do with our willingness to participate as facilitators in the learnings of our kid. We should always remember that we are the best person to be consulted by our kids, especially at this pandemic crisis. If walang consultation na mangyayari, mapapabayaan ng ating mga anak. Kung hindi natin kaya in terms of academics na maging facilitator tayo, why not we can do the other way facilitating process by asking help. And when we can get help, then why not do some collaboration? Okay? So dapat don't stick with that word na no read, no write ako. Hindi ko na kayang tulungan ng aking anak, aking kindergarten na anak or preschool kid na anak. Hindi yan excuse actually. Dapat maging yung willingness natin. Ilagay natin sa puso natin na tayo magulang, tayo ang merong responsibilidad para maging matutong ating mga anak in any ways, in any forms. Okay? So, para sa mga magulang na medyo may hesitation sa kanilang mga anak na turuan sila, I advise you, please start remove that hesitation and just think the love and care that you have for your kids. Eventually, hindi nyo alam, pati kayo may mga natutunan din kayo along the way. And that can be a meaningful meaningful experience, not just to the kid, but also to you as a parent. You can really say that, ay, kaya ko pala, nakalimutan ko lang pala na meron pala akong potential. Okay? Next question.
Okay po, Doc. For our second question, this is from Miss Marisa Borines. What is the effect of serve-return interaction among children and family or parents with their brain structure? Does it affect their developmental domain or areas?
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you repeat again the question?
Hapa, what is the effect of serve-return interaction among children and their family with their brain structure daw po, Doc? Does it affect their developmental domains or areas?
Okay, you mentioned the serve. I'm sorry, I had
Serve-return po.
serve return.
Serve-return. Yes po.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I understand the question. What is the effect of serve return interaction among children and family parents with their brain structure? Does
Yes
it
po.
affect their developmental domain areas?
Yes
Tama
po.
ba ako?
Yes
So,
po.
ganito. As far as how I understand the question, when we say serve return interaction among children and family, this is a very good strategy in order for I mean to have a meaningful experiences between the child as a learner and the parent. So if we have a positive serve return interaction among our children and family, therefore there is a kumbaga there is a positive development in terms of cognitive. I'm not so sure with the brain structure because brain structure has a is a totally different topic. It's more on a neurodevelopmental. But when we say at a cognitive level, if there is a positive serve-return interaction, definitely the cognitive development of the child will positively be resulted, and at the same time, this kid will have a learning interest when there is a positive serve-return interaction between the kid as a learner and the parent as a facilitator. So if you will ask me if there is a positive effect in the developmental domain or areas, yes. But what about brain structure? I may be limited in answering that because that is a neurodevelopmental questioning. That is something a very technical question that may be asked somehow. But I'll research that answer to you about the brain structure. How does it affect? But cognitively speaking, when we say serve return interaction, we need to check first how far the interaction have done and at what meaningful experiences or positive experiences was is taken out when it comes to that interaction. Okay.
Okay po, Doc. Thank you so much for that response. Let's now proceed to the next question po. This is from Miss Rose Maria Resos. Good
Okay.
afternoon po. Paano po sa katulad kong working parent?
Okay. Sinabi ko na kanina na um, hindi excuse na may trabaho ako. Pwedeng maging excuse lang pag ang iyong trabaho ay OFW ka or wala ka talaga sa bahay. Okay? There are two ways on how to answer that. First is that if you're a working parent and you're still living in one home with your kids, then it is your primary responsibility to find time with your kids and check the status of on how well they are doing at that particular day. Okay? Kailangan kumustahin mo sila kasi nasa isang bahay lang kayo. Hindi pwede na irason mo na pagod ka. Sige, let's be honest. Minsan pagod na pagod tayo. Pero dapat kahit 10 minutes, upuan niyo muna yung mga anak ninyo. Sasabihin niyo sa mga anak, o anak, kumusta na kayo? Anong pwede nating pag-uusapan? That can be a very positive interaction between the parents and the kids. And mararamdaman ng kid na hindi sila alone. Nandiyan pa rin ang magulang nila. The work is not only the responsibility of the parent. It's a 360 degrees responsibility. It's not just work, it's also taking care on the social aspect, cognitive, love, lahat. Responsibilidad ng magulang. However, because of the distance, eto na, the other direction, yung mga parents like OFWs or nagtatrabaho sa ibang lugar na hindi umuwi sa bahay, that might be challenging. But again, there are a lot of ways on how to do some communication with your kids. You can do some online, like doing Facebook, kung tawagin mo lang, you can do some video chats or call your kids and ask for, or check kung kumusta na sila, or ask some information kung ano nang ginagawa nila, at least maramdaman man lang ng anak nyo na, ay, kahit malayo yung aking nanay, ayun, nandun pa rin sila. Meron akong isang article na nabasa. I guess this is a real story. Yung yung anak is being handled by a caretaker or sabihin natin yaya, pero ang nanay kahit malayo, tumatawag sa kanyang anak at nag-uusap sila habang yung anak niya ay gumagawa ng assignment. Could you imagine that kind of virtual bonding? Diba? So, at the end of the day, it's not only the work that we have a responsibility to our kids, it's also to check the 360 degrees welfare, including the academic engagement of our kids. Okay?
Okay po, Doc. Thank you so much. And for our last question for this afternoon, this is from Miss Filomena Peñaflor. Good day. What if the parents doesn't have idea in honing or nurturing their child in school development since they themselves is not interested in studying? What are we going to do as teachers?
Okay. Actually, this is a very challenging question pag may resistance na ang magulang. And I hope that there's walang parents na gano'n na magre-resist sa kanyang participation sa academic engagement ng bata. Ang question kasi is, what if the parent doesn't have an idea in honing? Always remember that you parent decided to become a parent. So it's your primary responsibility to know how to become responsible parent by honing them. Again, we don't require an extensive knowledge in order to hone them. Sometimes we just hone them based on what we know and how does our knowing, our knowledge can be applied by our kids in their daily engagement. So, minsan ginagawa yung excuses pero alam ko may capacity ang parents to do that. It's just so, yun nga, katulad kanina, nawawalan lang siya ng confidence o tiwala sa sarili na kaya niya pa na dapat meron siyang confidence or pagtiwala sa kanyang sarili. Ang second question dun, since they themselves is not interested in studying, what are we going to do as a teacher? Sa part ng teacher, eto na. 'Di ba? Sabi nila, teachers are second parents. And I challenge preschool teachers. Sabihin na natin na nasa bahay ang education ngayon. I mean, home-based ang education ngayon. I challenge all preschool teachers to do some evaluation, to do some visit in order to check the engagement of the kids. Not every day, at least kahit papano. Reach out to the parent and maybe you can conduct some query directly to the kid o kumustahin mo siya, ganon. Medyo mahirap siya gawin kasi minsan tatanungin, wala namang pinoprovide sa amin load ang administration ng school, paano yung gagawin? Yes, it's true that minsan wala talaga because of pandemic crisis, minsan nawawalan ng kita ang school or something. Alam naman natin, apektado lahat ng business. Pero come to think of it, if you have a little means to do that as preschool teacher, reaching out your kids and checking the status quo in terms of their academic engagement, at least kahit papano, yung mga anak or yung mga preschool kids na hindi binabantayan na anak, mafe-feel sila na meron pa lang silang second parent. Kaya nga, talaga, it's really a monumental task for teachers to nurture, to hone this kind of kids, especially maliliit. Pero again, this is a very should we say rewarding experience for a teacher, especially for preschool teacher pag magagawa niyo yan. Kasi minsan kailangan natin mag-extend talaga, we go to the extra mile in order for us to check the welfare of our students. And kung kaya naman, why not? Kung hindi, try to think some alternatives in order to reach your kids. Sabihin kong kids kasi syempre we are second parent to the kids, tayong mga guro. So, yun yung advice ko. I guess that's the best advice that I can give to preschool teachers. Yun lang kayo, maging matatag lang kayo. Just be resilient. Alam ko you will encounter circumstances or things along the way that will make you or that will feel you that you are not a better teacher. Pero come to think of it, from the very essence that you're a teacher, you're the best person that you may have in the academic life of the kids. So try to embrace that. Try to make your profession as a passion. Kasi minsan kasi we say that this is my profession, but sometimes not all professions are integrated with passion. Pero pag may passion, you will no longer see it as your profession, but you will see it as how you you can be a better person to others. So yun yung advice ko sa mga preschool teacher. And again, babalikan ko ang parents. Parents, huwag niyong isipin na wala kayong kakayanan. Meron. Meron kayong kakayanan na maturuan ang inyong mga anak. Kasi from the very beginning, when your child was born, you have already decided that you will take care of these kids. Okay? So it's a matter of asking a help to someone in order for you to deliver a very good facilitator, or try to do some self-research, or taasan niyo lang ang confidence niyo na kaya to. At the end of the day, magiging successful kayo sa journey being a facilitator to your kids at home. Okay?
Okay po, Doc. So that's all the questions that we have for this afternoon. Though you already have said your words to our parents and teachers, I just also wanted to ask, Doc, before we end, do you have any final reminders?
Okay, so first, again, I would like to thank Vival Group for giving me this opportunity. Hindi lahat na pagbibigyan ng ganitong oportunidad ng Vival. So I really thank Vival Group for this opportunity, and also for those viewers, preschool teachers, parents with preschool kids, those who are thinking to become parents soon, or those who want to align their profession or their passion to be a preschool teacher someday. Simple advice. I guess the best person who can hold yourself is you. Kayo ang makapagdesisyon kung anong makakabuti para sa sarili nyo. At pag nagdesisyon kayo na sa ikakabuti ng iyong sarili, then you can also share that goodness to others. Okay? So tiwala lang, huwag kayong mawalan ng pag-asa. Alam ko na nasa pandemya tayo lahat. Magtiwala lang, kaya natin to. At kung hindi man kaya, humingi tayo ng tulong para makaya natin to. Mahalin natin ang ating ginagawa, preschool teachers. Dapat maging focus tayo, maging devoted, and magkaroon tayo ng passion sa teaching, or even compassion, actually. Okay? So with that, I will leave to Vibal all the success in their company, and I hope that I have inspired everyone who's watching today. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you.
There we have it. Thank you so much, Dr. Philip Quizon, for this very insightful and very inspiring session that you had with us and all
Thank you.
our
Thank you.
Kavibal viewers this afternoon. It is our
Okay?
pleasure to have you again with us this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
And of course, all our Kavibal viewers, thank you so much for the 1 week that you are present in our webinars every 2 p.m. here in YouTube. We'll hope to see you again next week for another set of webinars about elementary education. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we hope to see you
Yeah,
again
have a great
tomorrow
weekend,
for
guys.
our
Bye-bye.
FB Live session. Muli po, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.